You listened to him on the KVJ show for years. Every time he tried to talk sports, he'd get shut down. After years of begging, we finally gave in. Brought to you by Bremen Motor Cars and by Wellington Anti-Aging. It's Kevin's Other Show on 640 The Hurricane.
Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kevin's Other Show. It's Kevin Diener here. Got a lot of stuff coming up today. Going to be talking some college football. Got Lane Kiffin jumping in here today. Talking about them fighting Owls.
That's the plan.
See where he is with the starting quarterback. What he thinks about the Owls not getting ranked in the top 25. Does he even care? That's all the stuff we'll be wrapping with him. Going to be talking Giancarlo Stanton coming back to Miami.
Yeah, that's tonight, huh? That's
some exciting stuff.
Long-awaited return.
And also get into a little bit of football action. So there's a lot to get to here today, man. A lot of stuff to get to here today, including Richie Incognito. Boy, this guy is just a walking train wreck, man. I don't know what's going on with this cat, but he just got arrested in Arizona yesterday. You remember he flipped out in the gym in Boca, started checking weights at people. They had to bring him out of the gym there. And now he's gone berserk in a funeral home after the death of his father. Apparently got into some kind of like altercation with some staffers at the funeral home there. Started yelling at people, and they say he was out of control, had to call on the cops. Sounds like a lot of what, happened to him in the gym in Boca.
Dude has some screws loose, man. Like, I'm sorry, for his dad passing, obviously that's very sad, not a very easy thing to deal with, obviously.
Sure.
But, man, like, what are you doing getting so upset in a funeral home? At your dad's funeral home? Like, what's going on with you?
Well, he's a guy that's, he's shown this for years. I mean, even when he, going back to his days with the Dolphins, when he tore after that car in Arizona, when he took like golf clubs or a ball bat to it, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he took a baseball bat to his sports car. It was like a Ferrari or something like that.
It was a very expensive car.
Yes.
So, I mean, this guy has, kind of been unhinged for a while, and I don't know, what it is. I mean, you can speculate who knows what it is that's caused it. Is he a chemical imbalance? Is it something from playing the sport? Is he got CTE? Is he just an a-hole? Who knows? I mean, I don't think anybody really knows what the answer is.
Yeah.
But it's just one thing after another with this guy. I don't know. When you got somebody like this, case after case after case, it seems like every single month we got a different story about Richie Incognito. If you're his brother, his family, what do you do? Is that just Richie in the way he's always been? Or do we need to – I mean, he's a large man, very strong man.
Yeah.
They can chuck weights around a gym.
That's right, which he did.
He could cause some damage, and you're just like, okay, well, what is next? If you're related to this guy, what do you do? But the writing is on the wall. No matter what it is, that's not even necessarily important. It seems like, without a doubt, something's got to step in. Because you're just waiting for when is the next story not going to be he just lost his temper, started flipping out, and cops were able to intervene. When is it going to be something a lot worse? And you're going to be like going, okay, Richie Incognito is just a loose cannon. Why did no one at any point ever step in?
It does kind of feel like that downward, like we're seeing the downward spiral, right? Like we're seeing the process.
Yeah, I would think it's scary. If he were a family member of mine, I would be very concerned. I'd be like, what is going to be next with Richie? Maybe you've seen this his entire life and you're not as alarmed, or you think he's got it under control. But from an outsider looking in, whatever it is, you're like, okay, we need to figure out a way to insulate this guy from any problems, harming himself or a lot of other people.
It kind of feels like that moment. I mean, and it's sad because it's almost like we've gotten used to this with him, where he has these outbursts, where you have these crazy stories about how he's screaming at people or throwing weights at people or saying that the CIA is speaking in his ear or whatever it may be. But, I'm with you, man. It's almost to that point where you have to say to yourself, okay, where do we go from here? Is it just going to keep going downward? Or
There's got to be checks and balances.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a situation that is crying out for somebody, somehow, something has to step in to try to help this guy. Because you're right. I mean, some of it, for a while, it's like, oh, it's cute. This guy's just, he's crazy or he's entertaining, whatever it is. But it's getting to the point where it's getting scary. I would say we're way into that territory of this is scary with Richie Incognito.
Yeah, I think we crossed over into that territory now. And we just I think we just played the sound, actually, a few weeks ago, where he came out on Twitter and announced that he's now part of this anti-bullying campaign. And that was just a few weeks ago. And now here we are and he's arrested again for just being crazy.
Yeah, that's all good. But, I mean, this is just a pattern of behavior that goes years back. It's not like, understandably, you would be shook by the death of your father. It's not about that.
Right. If this was an isolated incident where he's never done anything before, it probably wouldn't even be talked about. But because it's Richie Incognito and because of his history, this is now added on to the long list of essentially his rap sheet of craziness.
Yeah.
I mean, even go back to his playing days at Nebraska. I remember, I'm sure you do too, where there was stories then about him going, all these unnecessary roughness penalties.
Yeah.
And just where he was just being a crazy person.
That's why you just say, okay, what's the diagnosis? What's going on with this guy?
Yeah.
And if he is just an a-hole, then okay, maybe that's the best diagnosis, that he's just an a-hole. But
possible.
If he's got CTE or any kind of like mental illness, then you're just wondering, when does this take control of him and he has no control of himself?
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen with that.
Man, Richie, come on, man.
Some fascinating stuff going on. I'm telling you, man, the Browns have got me. I'm so fascinated with the Browns. Just Hard Knocks, arguably one of the best seasons. I got sucked in. I've only seen 2 episodes, and I'm already loving it. And just the storylines around it, I can't wait for this week. I mean, it's my new favorite show. Coming up this week on Hard Knocks, you're going to have Des Bryant in on that.
That's right. That's tonight, actually. I think.
It's on tonight.
Right? Tuesday nights.
That's why I'm so psyched.
Here we go.
It's on tonight.
This is going to be good.
You got the Des Bryant. I've seen some of the promos for it. It looks highly entertaining. Baker Mayfield just came out with a new underwear modeling ad, which honestly, it's so bizarre. It either looks like something from The Hangover or it looks like the beginning of an Ambien-induced kind of dream. It's so bizarre. You can see right now if you are watching the YouTube channel. I got it up there. If not, it's on our Twitter at Kevin's Other Show.
Is that a tiger?
It's exactly. That's why I'm saying The Hangover. It's Baker Mayfield, and he's standing in front. I don't know cars, but it's like a Rolls Royce.
That's what it looks
like. It's a white Rolls Royce. It's Baker Mayfield. He's in jeans, showing the underwear. He's just kind of like chilling there with his hands in his pockets, leaning up against the white Rolls Royce,
shirtless.
Yes. And a tiger is laying on the ground beside him.
What's the deal with the tiger?
I don't know. It's like I said, it just is odd because he's not dressed fancy. He's just in jeans, but you got the Rolls Royce and you got the tiger. It just seems like all 3 of these things seem to be mismatched. That's why I'm like, I don't know if it's a scene from The Hangover or I feel like you start to go into like one of those really bizarre dreams and you kind of wake up and be like, I started to have this weird dream. It was Baker Mayfield shirtless in front of a Rolls Royce with a tiger.
Yeah, now I see where you're kind of getting at with that.
Yeah, so I don't even know what it was, but I mean, it's entertaining. They say that coming up this next game, he's going to get a lot of reps. So I can't wait to see what he does. He's got to admit, he's fascinating to me.
I have 2 questions from that picture, and if you haven't seen the picture, obviously you can check it out. And like our YouTube channel, Kevin's Other Show, search it. We were just showing it. Number 1, the tiger. It's got to be photoshopped, right? Was the tiger actually sitting
No, I don't
there next
think
to
so.
him?
I think that is a trained, legit cat. You can look at that. I think it's a trained, legit, could rip Baker Mayfield's beard off his face kind of cat.
I mean, because that's kind of scary. You're a franchise quarterback. Is there a clause in his contract that says if you're bitten by a tiger, that you still get your money?
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, because they even had that on one of the Hard Knocks episodes. Yeah, they ran down all the things that if you can do these things like skydiving, but if something happens while you do skydiving, then your whole contract is null and void, and we don't have to pay you.
It looks like that tiger. He might be a tiger actor. That might be one of those acting tigers.
I don't think it's like photoshopped in there.
No, I think that was actually there, and he's got a farmer's tan. So if they are photoshopping the tiger, can they not Photoshop a tan on this guy?
Yeah, he's got an awful tan. Yeah, he's got Baker Mayfield. You can see right here. He's got. I've been wearing a sleeveless top tan. Yeah, you would think like, okay, before you do an underwear ad, Baker Mayfield, get a spray tan.
Something, man. I mean, you look like me. Not that I have this body,
but you're not modeling underwear.
No,
and if you were going to model underwear, I mean, his body's fine. He's got a little bit of that kind of like 15 pube chest hair.
That's right.
Kind of going on. It's not full. It's about maybe quarter style up there.
I mean, there's ab formation.
Oh yeah, he's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's in shape. I
can recognize that, but yeah, it's like the spray tan might have been a good call.
Yes,
I assume you can get that in Cleveland, right? Cleveland's got to have spray tan.
They have they would have to because there's barely any sun.
People are buying into the Browns. They say their odds are changing. At the MGM Sportsbooks, the Browns have attracted more bets to win the Super Bowl than the Falcons, Chiefs, and Jaguars, who were all playoff teams last year. This is an 0-16 team that people, and I don't know if it's all because of Hard Knocks, that people are just loving the Browns. They're listed at 61 odds to win the Super Bowl.
So confusing to me.
Yeah, I don't know either. But it's a storyline. I think America's trying to fall in love with the Browns because of this show.
I am this close to becoming a Browns fan. I'm telling you right now. I'm this close.
You know who I'm a fan of? If you've seen it, that Devin Cajuste, the guy who whistles, he and his dad will whistle to him, and he hears his dad whistling, and he'll whistle back.
That's right.
And his dad has all these health problems, and his dad was talking about how he had just had another heart attack, and he's almost like crying. And these guys, he's like, he's my best friend. I'm like going, gosh, man, my heart's absorbed, Diener.
No, they got me, man. They got me too.
Love this show.
Looking forward to tonight.
I'm rooting for this Devin Cajuste, who likely is going to get cut. They can't cut Cajuste.
No, you got to keep the juice on there.
You got to keep him. You can't cut him now. I'm too emotionally involved, man. Hey, coming up in a couple minutes, there's a great viral video with the Lane Train. Lane Kiffin did something, man. Just about brought me to tears as well. We're going to check in with the Lane Train, talk about that, find out what is going on with the FAU Owls this season, what his thoughts are of the fact, too, they're left out of the top 25. We'll get to all that stuff coming up here on Kevin's Other Show.
Get Kevin's Other Show whenever the hell you want on YouTube and at 640thehurricane.com.
FAU, best start in school history. They'll be in the postseason for the first time since 2008.
He wakes up in the morning and it's football. He goes to bed at night, it is football.
That's right, that Lane Train rolling through Boca year 2. Where do you go from an 11-3 season? High expectations on this team. Where are they going to wind up? That's what we're going to find out here.
Lot of high expectations for this team, especially going into the first game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was surprised yesterday. Actually, we were talking to Jake Elman from the Palm Beach Post about this upcoming season, and I didn't get to say it yesterday, but I was looking it up. The line in that game against Oklahoma is 21 points. Is that a lot? It kind of feels like a lot, doesn't it? Because people are actually picking FAU to possibly upset Oklahoma in that game.
Well, Oklahoma's going to be replacing their quarterback, obviously Baker Mayfield, now in Cleveland. So you got to deal with that. Samaje Perine, I believe, the running back.
That's right, yeah.
They're going to be replacing him. But, you're talking about a high-end Division I program. So, yeah, I think that, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens with it. But I think they're going to be able to hold their own. We'll talk to Lane Kiffin coming up here in just a little bit on the show about what his thoughts are with that point spread, where he thinks it might lead to.
I hope he answers that. That'd be great.
One person that was left out of the list, they've released the All-Americans here preseason, and Devin Singletary is left off the list, did not make it.
It's a tough one because, look, it still is FAU. And when you have guys like, Love from Stanford or the Wisconsin running back, you're talking about guys who are legit Heisman candidates. I know they have the Heisman in Paradise thing going on for Singletary. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously he led the nation in rushing touchdowns last season, but it's tough. It's tough to put him on that list, even though some would argue that he deserves it. It's just tough to put him over those guys.
Well, we went over this, not too long ago. How often does somebody not in a Power 5 conference win the Heisman? And we went back, and the last time you're talking about that, you're going all the way back to 1990 in BYU.
Was that Ty Detmer? Mm-hmm. Jeez. And Andre Ward, I guess, was in that same time frame with Houston.
I think he was right before that. So you had a small grouping of non-Power 5, and, then the Power 5 didn't exist. But, now you look at that, and to win it from a smaller school, and I think even in today's era, it's probably even less likely that it would happen, that you're going to win the Heisman. Because of the argument of just, I think the Power 5, and especially now with the college football playoff, you're seeing a lot of those high-end teams really stacked to a different level.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, look, we want a player from that because we know they've been pretty much running through the gauntlet.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It is. There's just so much with the Power 5. And right or wrong, they get all the attention. Away from these I shouldn't say mid-level schools, but that's kind of what it is when you talk about Conference USA and, the Mountain West and some of these other conferences, the non-traditional Power 5 conferences.
Well, until you really see a major upset coming in. I mean, honestly, right now, the biggest upset you've had in the college football playoff was year one in Ohio State. But, I mean, if you want to ever rank Ohio State as a big upset when it comes to it, Ohio State is not like, oh, whoa, major upset. To me, that's the kind of stuff that's supposed to be written in, supposed to be happening anyway. Some of the other All-Americans that got preseason from South Florida, you got Jaquan Johnson, your guy from Miami, safety in there.
Yeah, man. Mr. Turnover Chain.
Yeah.
That was his nickname last year.
Had 6 takeaways, 4 pass breakups in 2017. Had a team-high 96 tackles. That's the third most in the ACC by a defensive back.
It's pretty good.
You've also got for Florida State, Knowles. Levante Taylor is in there, the cornerback. He faced the highest number of snaps last season without allowing a touchdown.
Florida State, we keep talking about this. Florida State is going to be one of those teams that people are sleeping on. I know I'm saying this as a Canes fan, but I'm being fair here. They're one of those teams a lot of people are sleeping on because of the down year they had last year. They're not going to stay down. They're just not.
Yeah, I'm surprised they were ranked so low, and I don't think the AP polls necessarily miss anything, and I think they're really getting poo-pooed on, and, I think it's going to just serve them well. They're ranked 19th in the AP right now.
I mean, I know there's a lot of uncertainty at quarterback for them, and maybe that's where some of this comes from, is it going to be Francois, or is it going to be Blackman? We're not sure.
Mm-hmm. And then also former St. Thomas Aquinas alum Nick Bosa from Ohio State also is in there. 8.5 sacks, 16 tackles for a loss, and 9 quarterback hurries he had last year for the Buckeyes. And, he wasn't even a full-time starter last year.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But that's your guy, man. And obviously his brother is in the NFL right now. So.
Yeah. So some pretty impressive stuff there. Really cool moment yesterday if you were checking out a nice little viral clip. And a dude that I've had the pleasure of hanging out with and talking to with the group we work with, Student Aces, Gerald Hearns. He's a Dwyer High School alum. And yesterday, Lane Kiffin surprised him with an announcement that, hey, guess what? Dude, you're going to be on scholarship.
Gerald, all right, Mr. Face of the program, all right? We say every day, be like Gerald, okay? We talk about ego getting in the way. Did you go to yoga yesterday? Yes, no, you didn't. Why? Because the day before, you start in the scrimmage. So then, now I don't need to, okay? Because I've made it, all right? Which is exactly who you're not supposed to be. All right, the Pilates instructor or yoga instructor who spent 30 extra minutes the week before with you because you stayed and wanted to ask her all these questions, right? Yes. Okay, and then your excuse is because I ripped your running back coach, where are you? Running back coach says what? Oh, well, it's his birthday. All right, so then I rip him. All right, then all our meetings are ruined and everyone's in a bad mood because you don't go to Pilates. And then she comes back here for 30 minutes and leaves you a note. Read it to the team. You're on scholarship.
Yeah.
Tricky Lane.
Yeah.
Very tricky.
Cool little clip you can see up on our Twitter. We've got Coach Kiffin in here right now. Hello, Coach.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Doing good. I just got to ask you, can you tell me why Gerald Hearns blew off his Pilates?
Well, it was his birthday, so and it was actually I said yoga and I said Pilates, so I said both. It was actually yoga.
I see. Yoga.
There's actually voluntary yoga, so it was the players' day off on Sunday, so they don't have to go to it, and he usually goes to it all the time. But it was his birthday, and he had to get school supplies because school was starting the next day also.
Okay, yeah. That was the same day as your media day, correct?
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever join the guys in there and do any yoga, Coach?
I have. I did join them. Usually a little bit too busy up here with stuff, but the 2 Sundays ago when we had it, I did join them.
Do you have a special outfit for that? Because I know some guys like to go tight, like white Speedo, shirtless. Do you have any preference on how you do your yoga?
I do not wear an outfit like that, no. I come down in my practice gear that I have on.
Okay.
I thought you were one step away, Ken, from asking Lane Kiffin if he wears yoga pants.
I was going to say, I think you probably know the answer to that.
One thing I do notice, though, a lot, and I love the video you sent out there, and it's really going around, the circles of everybody who follows FAU football. Do you happen to tag Paul Feinbaum on every tweet? And if so, why is that?
I do sometimes because I like to send some things to Paul, but also because I like his listeners so much. Being there in Alabama,
yes,
and sometimes it'd be on the radio and stuff. There's just some awesome listeners, and just listening to the questions and the passion that they come in, and sometimes you can't really understand them, but so that's why I tag him, so all his listeners get to see him.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, they do have the best callers in America. I'm kind of curious because we talked a little bit yesterday about the AP poll, and I think I probably understand, where you're coming from with this too. And I know you addressed this, last year about rankings. Is it something you ever feel like you got to talk to the team about where you guys are with rankings? Is it anything that ever comes up in your discussions this time of year?
Not a whole lot. Except for explaining to them not to, just in general, not to listen to this attention that they're getting out there in general, and people are predicting them to beat Oklahoma and all these things that are just really ridiculous. Because a lot of times people are just, what I see is, if you going to write an article and you predict Oklahoma to beat FAU, nobody reads it. So
yeah,
go ahead and go on TV or write an article and predict FAU to win, and then people pay attention.
How do you manage that? Because obviously, I think you want to maintain the confidence of the team, but you don't want to feed them the rat poison. How do you find that balance between the two?
Well, you do two different things. When you talk to them, you make sure they understand, the plan, how we are going to execute, the plan to go in and play well and all those things. And then, when you talk to the media or, in general in public, you kind of have to make sure that they understand, to be realistic also, because otherwise, you get this fan base and media and everything that if you don't win versus Oklahoma, all of a sudden, they act like, well, why even play the rest of the season?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I go to the media today after practice, and they're asking me about, does this affect us being able to make the playoffs?
Oh,
ridiculous.
Nice.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's what we do. Ridiculous. Talking with Lane Kiffin here. I'm interested to see what the offense is going to look like this year. And just between your change in quarterback from Kendall Briles last year to Charlie Weis Jr., what would you say is the biggest difference between just your offensive coordinator from last year to this year?
There won't be much difference when you watch on TV. We'd be foolish to change what we did very much, and we're always evolving, and changing a little bit, just like we do throughout the season last year and in the off season, all those things. But you wouldn't even notice a difference, if you just watched the games.
Mm-hmm. Somebody had labeled your offense as pro style this year. Would you have said that last year you were pro style, and do you even label your offense?
If somebody labeled us pro style, I don't watch very much football, that's for
That's
sure.
what I thought. I was like, so that's why I thought maybe there was a big change. I'm like, Lane Kiffin's going to run a pro style here, huh?
No, that wouldn't be real smart to do because if you follow, people, you watch college football, pro style basically gets head coaches fired nowadays. So
right.
That's, we would not be pro style, that's for sure.
Talking to Lane Kiffin here. Now, we understand you still don't have a starting QB, but do you have a favorite attribute maybe of each of the three candidates that are up for the job that you seem to like and what they bring to the table?
Well, I think the two that, have been here are similar in Chris and DeAndre, and athletic, move around, throw. Rafe, who is new, the SMU transfer, has only been here, a week or two, would be a little bit more pocket passer. So all three have done good things, and we're in a people say it's bad situation when you have these quarterback competitions and don't have a starter, much like Alabama. And I said, well, that's a good thing to have, because it means you got a number of guys doing well.
Yeah. Now, do you have a part of this team that you feel most comfortable with, and is there a part that keeps you worried at night about we got to fix this before we get to Oklahoma?
I think our offensive depth is the issues that we're continuing to try to develop for the season, before the Oklahoma and throughout the season. And our defensive line depth is what we feel best about. There's a lot of guys returning with playing time there.
Yeah, you only lost, is it one starter on defense?
Yes, we returned 10. Yeah, we lost one at D-tackle. That was it.
Very cool.
That's pretty good. See, that's why, Coach, people are saying you're going to beat Oklahoma. You return a lot of those starters.
Yeah, it's just that easy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's all it takes.
That's why Vegas, doesn't know anything. They keep building those big buildings because they're really wrong on how they predict games.
Do you ever even look at a point spread? Does that have anything to do with how you approach a game?
No, not at all. I mean, the only reason I would ever know it or something is because, you're reading the paper or something like that. But no, as coaches, you don't. The point spread's irrelevant to how you coach a game.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're, knee deep in getting the Owls ready for Oklahoma. But if you've seen anything that's been happening on TV, would you say, is there anything, even just for any kind of college head football coach, to learn from the story of what's going on at Ohio State with Urban Meyer, where you guys look at that as a program and say, okay, well, we're seeing how this is being handled, and we can learn something that we can apply here in our program?
I think the Ohio State one, probably not, because that is, we don't know I'm not going to get into all the situations because we don't know all the facts and all those things and stuff. So, I think the Maryland one, just should be a reminder for everyone, that old school way that a lot of people still operate, that thinks that, you gotta, so maybe the common theme in both of them is, the good old boy ways of coaching and good old boys a way of hiring, just, shouldn't exist anymore.
Well, Coach, looks like this Saturday you guys are going to be doing probably your final scrimmage from what I'm hearing at FAU Stadium. Is that right?
Yes, we have what we call a mock game where, we try to make it as close as we can to the game as far as substitutions and getting things nailed.
Very cool. And is that going to be open to the public, or is that still closed?
I believe that is closed, yeah.
Okay, probably a good call.
Might be a good idea. You won't be getting any playoff questions then on Saturday. That's fine.
All right, Lane Kiffin, thank you very much for coming on with us, bud. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a good week.
Okay, man. Be good. Coming up here in a couple minutes, Giancarlo Stanton is going to be returning back to Miami for one of the few. He hasn't been back yet, right? This is his first trip back to Miami since being traded to the Yankees.
This is it. This is the first one. We'll see if we have that awkward moment where he shakes Derek Jeter's hand.
Yeah, so got a lot of things to talk about with that return. We'll get to that coming up next.
Be part of the show on Twitter at 640 The Hurricane, hashtag Kevin's Other Show.
Well, they're probably going to get more than 7,000 people at Marlins Park tonight.
They're all going to be Yankee fans.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Giancarlo Stanton is going to be coming back for the first time since putting on the pinstripes. He says it's going to be kind of weird to be in the visitors' dugout. See exactly what it's going to be like. But for me, probably a game I'm not even really going to watch. It's going to be so weird to see Giancarlo Stanton in a Yankees uniform inside of Marlins Park, and I don't know, man. I wish him best. He had nothing to do with this. And I think, honestly, he would have loved to have stayed in Miami. I would have loved to have seen him stay in Miami, so you wish him nothing but the best. But it's weird, honestly, because that just, ripped your heart out, man, as a Marlins fan, seeing him going to the Yankees and that Jeter's the one who sent him.
It's going to be rough. It's not going to be as rough as seeing Dwayne Wade in the Cavs jersey last year. I literally could not stomach watching those games last year.
So you think this is going to be easier to see than that?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, the attachment is different with Stanton.
You didn't have
Wade.
the championships. You didn't have those imprinted moments.
Right.
You had the possibility of those imprinted moments. They just never got a chance to mature.
Yes, that's what it was with Stanton. It was, wow, we have our guy now with this team that we can watch for the next 10 to 12 years and be a hometown hero, and he left before that happened. It was the promise. It was kind of that promise that you saw never got to be.
What was so ridiculous about it, for a Marlins fan, is he signs a 13-year contract. And it's just a 13-year contract in
What does that even
2014. And then in 2017, he's gone 3 years into it.
I mean,
That's just why when you see these contracts with anything, that's why you never get, excited.
Yeah.
Our boy we just talked to, Lane Kiffin, signs a 10-year deal. Don't get excited. It means nothing. They sign these massive deals for a long amount of time, and then nothing ever comes out of it.
It's year to year for the most part. I mean, It happens. I mean, with baseball, it's a little bit different because you do have guys, especially at the end of their careers, or I should say at the end of their contracts, they end up staying because they've fallen off. They end up falling off at the end of a 10-year contract. They're not as good as they were in the first 6 years, but they're still getting paid a buttload of money because they signed a $300 million deal.
Yeah.
So they're not going to leave because they're not going to get that money anywhere else.
Stanton hit 267 home runs in his 8-year career in Miami.
Man.
He, this year, has hit 32 already with the Yankees, batting .285, 80 RBIs. Pretty solid numbers.
All right, so some quick math. 367 plus 32.
267.
267, I'm sorry. Plus
Yes.
32. According to my calculations, Kev, that puts him at 299.
299, which is the ultimate, in your face. He's got 2 games at Marlins Park to hit 1 home run to get him to 300.
He's going to do it, isn't he?
Probably.
He's going to get the 300 home runs down here. It's poetic justice.
It is. It's, and I guess in a sense it's cool. It's it's probably a good story, right? It's better he does it here and you get to share and be like, hey, good for you.
I think it's
Congrats.
I think it's actually kind of fun. It wouldn't be like a slap in the face type thing. I think it's a nice coming full circle moment where you leave the team, you come back, you play a couple games here, and you end up hitting that milestone where you started your career. I think it's fun.
Still hurts though, man.
Yeah.
It does.
There's a certain degree of, a little punch in the gut there. Does he get booed?
No, not at all.
You don't think so?
No, no way. I mean, who would boo him? First of all, I mean, how many fans are the Marlins going to have?
15.
Yeah, if they tried to boo him, you wouldn't hear it. And Yankees fans aren't going to boo him.
Yeah.
There's no way he gets booed.
I mean, it's going to be their biggest crowd.
Yeah, and again, it's not his deal. It's not his fault. I think if he had his choice, it'd have been like, cool. His basic approach when it came time to getting rid of him, get him off to the Yankees, all he said, he's like, please try to put a contender around me. I'm here, and I'd love to do it in Miami, but, they just weren't going to cough up the money.
They had the hitting. It was just the pitching that was the problem. And we talked about this before, how the untimely death of Jose Fernandez affected the franchise in the future.
Probably changed the time. And when you look at the cycles of it, they were probably ramping up to make a solid playoff run.
He might still be here.
Absolutely.
Stanton might still be here.
It definitely changed the course of the franchise.
If Jose Fernandez was still here, then Stanton might still be here.
Because you add another pitcher in there, and you could be a legit contender. I mean, they were close last year. One of the things that the Yankees doing, I've heard a lot of people complaining about is, they've got people like Giancarlo Stanton, and they got Aaron Judge when he gets back, and they've got all these big home run hitters, and it's ruining the game. In fact, you see a lot of former players. Pete Rose was just talking about the juiced up balls, not liking how many strikeouts are happening in the game. Hall of Famer Chipper Jones, former third baseman for the Braves, he's not happy with the way the game looks now. And I think a lot of the differences they're complaining about, they don't like the high number of strikeouts, the defensive shifts, which to me, that's just strategy.
Yeah, the shifts don't really bother me.
Yeah, I was talking to someone like, well, how do you regulate that? What do? You put lines on the field and shortstop can't shift?
Right.
Like Altuve's got to stop here. He can't do that shift that he always does. The heavy reliance on the home runs and to score, and the fact that, the pitchers aren't going deep into games anymore. And I've talked to a couple people like going, what is that? These guys have no hitters in the 6th inning and they take them out.
Yeah.
Is that fair or foul? The old school guys are like going, that's foul. People who are maybe newer are like going, well, they're trying to save arms. It's a strategy. It's, you're trying to win games. Do you really value the numbers anyway? Chipper Jones says it blows my mind. This is probably going to be the first year where you have more strikeouts than hits during a season.
That is pretty insane.
So is it ruining baseball? For the old school guys, it is.
Now, see, this is my question, because when I read this, at first I kind of agreed with what they were saying. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of kind of alarming numbers with baseball this season. I mean, you mentioned the discrepancies between strikeouts and hits and home runs. But then I started thinking, is this just the way generations go? Because weren't the same guys, weren't like, Reggie Jackson and Pete Rose who's saying the same stuff now? Was he saying the same stuff back in the mid-'90s? Like, is this just a generational gap thing?
Right, where every single
year,
year, old-timers now look at today's youth and like going, oh, these kids and their newfangled iPads. Yeah.
Back in my day, we did it this way.
Back in my day, yeah. There's probably something to that. But, I will tell you that, looking at the sport, I think there's some things to fix. The Yankees, I find it troubling that they have no small ball, and I think it becomes readily apparent. And you saw it in the series against Boston, a team that can advance hitters, and they play that way, and they strategize that way. And the Yankees are like, okay, let's maybe try to get one guy on, then knock him in with a home run. And look at that. The Yankees get swept. I think it's something for teams that are playing that way, and the knock on the Yankees is we'll see how they do the rest of the year against Boston. And I don't think it's just because Boston plays a little bit more small ball that they're losing. I think there are other elements, behind why they got swept.
Yeah, Boston's just more of a complete team in that aspect. But it is interesting to that point, with this being the 20th anniversary of the Yankees' 98 World Series team. Now, obviously, they were considered one of the best teams of all time. That team, their leading home run hitter was Tino Martinez with 28 home runs.
Right.
I mean, you already have Stanton now with 32. You just mentioned that number. Mm-hmm. And they've already shattered what the Yankees did all season as far as team home runs.
Right.
I mean, that's not even close. They have like 30 more home runs or something than that 98 team had all season.
But the home runs don't necessarily mean wins. It's fun, fun to watch.
So it kind of makes you wonder, is this going to be their downfall? What actually looks like a strength with all that power, will this end up being their downfall come playoff time?
How do you feel about taking pitchers out of games?
I hate it. I think it's completely stupid. So in that aspect, I agree with the old timers, so to speak. Because why? It makes no sense to me.
If it's going to burn out a pitcher faster and could mean they don't play in the postseason, doesn't it seem like the better strategy to watch on the pitch counts and make sure you don't override this guy? If you're not going to need him to win a game, I mean, what are you trying to do? You're trying to achieve those old school baseball records, right? Is a purist? That's what you want, because old school purists live for the records in baseball, which I believe are so fractured and tainted anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of red flags.
I don't buy into old school baseball numbers for a gazillion different reasons.
But to your point with that is, Nolan Ryan played what till he was like 45? I mean, these guys, they played longer. They've pitched more complete games. That's why you're not going to see another pitcher, in my opinion. I think Verlander just got to 200 wins, but you're not going to see a guy get to 300 wins ever again. I don't think, because they're not pitching
because they don't go long enough into the game.
Yes, there's just all this middle relief. We're saving your arm. These guys are getting Tommy John surgery as a preventative measure now, and it makes no sense to me. For years, for 100 years, it was done a certain way, and guys were playing into their 40s, and they were fine. Now, all of a sudden, for some reason, within the past 10 years, it's, oh, no, we got to save their arms. Look at the Marlins. Even I think it was this season or last season, they took out one of their pitchers who was on the verge of a complete game, and they took him out. It was one-hit complete game. Why are you taking him out after 8 innings? Just let him finish because he went over his allotted pitch. Stop with the pitch counts. Just if they're going. If they're flowing, if they're on fire,
let them go. Make a magical moment happen.
Yes.
Have something that you paid to come out to the ballpark. You're going to see something awesome.
So frustrating.
We're not going to kill that.
That part to me is dumb.
And how do you feel about the shift?
And again, to me, that part is just it's strategy.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think you're being a crybaby at that point. If you got a problem with Altuve playing over second base because he's actually done his homework and knows where everybody hits, you're right. If you want to play every guy in the infield, you should be able to do that. Why not?
Yeah, but with the old records, that's a whole other subject we can get on.
Okay, so you're more with the old school.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually kind of am, yeah.
Coming up here in just a little bit, I got a little bit more of a rant about college football scheduling.
Oh, good.
And I haven't said much about the whole Urban Meyer thing in Ohio State. I will have a quick word on that next.
Get Kevin's other show whenever the hell you want on YouTube and at 640thehurricane.com.
I've really done my best to not pop off too much about the whole Urban Meyer thing that's going on. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., they've got the Board of Trustees going to be meeting, going over all the evidence that they heard yesterday to try to come up with some kind of judgment as what to do with Urban Meyer. Should he stay? Should he go? If he stays, should he be suspended? And what's going to happen with that? And there are so many unsubstantiated rumors and reports that are going around this story that it's like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to wait and see what happens. And overall, just with the tone of Buckeye fans, and I am on the Twitter all the time finding it, I am not finding one sensible Buckeye fan who wants Urban Meyer to stay if he covered up domestic violence. Not
Sure.
one that I would call sensible. You're going to have nut jobs with any fan base. But any person that I follow, see, talk to, whatever, and they're like, if he was protecting a guy that he knew was abusing his wife, then he's got to go. I think ultimately the big question is, did Urban Meyer report it? Did he do the right things according to what his contract says? And then the ultimate question that I think everybody has, why was this guy still on staff? You had the problems at Florida in 2009. Why did he get hired in 2011? Why, after you knew there were some issues in 2015, did he stay on? Supposedly he had the DUI in 2013. You didn't find out about it. So I think those are the questions that hopefully we get answers to. But until we get answers to that and we get somebody officially speaking on it, I don't know necessarily like how much you can say. And it's all it is. It's entertaining reading. I mean, I'm going back and forth and seeing the people just sniping, back and forth. But I'm in the bathroom today, and somebody's like trying to take me on in a big time battle about Urban Meyer.
Wait, you run into Clay Travis in the bathroom?
Basically, yeah. I was like urinating next to Clay Travis.
That's what it felt like for you, yeah.
And is a Buckeye fan, and just watching the tone of the reporting and how people right now want to have everything wrapped up and give their definitive opinion on what's going on and what Ohio State needs to do without getting all the facts, I think is ridiculous. And the stories that I hear coming out of Clay Travis's mouth, who, by the way, is a massive hypocrite. If you want to go back and see how he talked about the Ray Rice story back in the day, go find that read. That's very interesting. Clay,
I gotta
love
get
to
him
see
on.
an answer on that.
He's got to come on the show. I got to get him on the show.
I'd love
you guys,
to.
yeah, you guys
He's
need
a
to go
complete
at it.
hypocrite.
Okay, good.
He is. Feinbaum, same thing. Ridiculous stuff in the reporting.
Love the guy.
But I think that's
amazing.
what he does is he trolls.
He's a troll, and I love the troll aspect of Feinbaum.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is. He's a professional troll.
Absolutely. Brett McMurphy today, the guy who's had the whole reporting, is like going, oh, okay, well, they met yesterday, and it was just verbal. There was nothing written. Okay, I see how shady Ohio State is. They're not going to come out with anything written. No, they were doing it to be expedient with the information. So they are going to have a written report because it is financed by a public institution. They have to have a written report of it, Brett. Mm-hmm. Simple little bit of investigative journalism would have told you that before you went popping off with your statements today. So anyway, that's kind of the long and short of it. Can we just wait until tomorrow? And can we not attack me in the bathroom?
Yes, please. that's also a good point.
Well, and when I said, well, where's the proof that you have? As we're sitting there, and by the way, we're having a fight as we're both urinating.
I would love to know who this was. Maybe off air you can tell me.
I have no problem. It's one of our sales guys.
Okay.
And I'm like going, okay, well, where is the proof? How do you know all this information that I don't know? And I've read every single story on it. He's like, well, it goes all the way back to Florida. I'm like, this isn't about Florida. I'm like, you can't throw this into the mix. Florida was 6 years ago.
Different administration. I mean,
Right.
completely different school.
He's not on track. He's not going to. He got the job after Florida. He's not going to keep he needs to be fired. And I finally said, why? He said, well, because of Florida. I'm like, you can't fire him because of Florida.
Right. No, it's silly.
You can say whatever you want to say, and I'm not going to take on that debate. Say whatever you want to say. And sure, there were some issues I think he learned from. But you can't fire him because of what happened in Florida. And I mean, if that's your fallback argument, then you got none.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, this whole thing, like you said, it's coming to a head this week. We know. Whether or not we actually get answers on what he knew, how much of the investigation results they actually tell us, that remains to be seen. They may only tell us the actual end result of their decision, which is whether or not he's going to be suspended or fired or kept on the staff. They may not even tell us what they found, so we have to wait to see that.
I think they need some depth.
Honestly,
Honestly,
I would hope so.
and as a Buckeye fan, I'll say I'm rooting for that. I'm rooting for you to explain and answer these hard-hitting questions, and they're all legitimate questions. Why was he on your staff? Why did you keep him? And some people are, and all of it's speculation, and that's why I even really hate the game, and that's why I haven't talked about it, because it is all speculation. But you can say, look, if he didn't have concrete proof to fire the guy, which he may not have had. It's not like in the state of Florida where it's a right-to-work state.
Right.
In the state of Ohio, you have to have more to fire somebody other than, I just think this cat's shady.
Yeah.
Or you have some wild rumors that are floating around the building about him.
It's just way too subjective for me.
Yeah.
Because from the facts, the actual facts that we know about this right now says Urban knew about it and reported it in 13.
That's his statement. But still, that's got to be corroborated by the university.
Right. So that hopefully we find that out.
That should be an easy paper trail.
Yes.
Did he do it?
That should come out easily.
And did that satisfy their qualifications for what he do? Did he meet the qualifications of his contract?
That's the main thing.
If the answer is yes, then the next question is, well, what did you know? Why did he stay on your staff?
Then that just becomes a question of personal morality and the loyalty that he had to this guy, which we've said before in previous shows.
And what did he know?
Right. What did he know?
What should he have known?
If he knew enough to report it from what he was being told from his wife or even Zach Smith's wife, to go ahead and say, look, you guys need to look into this. This is what I'm being told. We need to investigate this. Then he did his job as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
If they didn't find enough to say, hey, coach, we need to fire this guy, then who is Urban Meyer to say, no, I disagree with my administration. I'm going to fire him.
What Buckeye fans suspected when this whole thing broke is, from the stories that have come out, it's pretty much what you expected. It was a messy relationship and divorce.
Yes.
And you've got Courtney Smith, who made the allegations. Her own mother reported that she once tried to run Zach Smith over with the car.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
So you've got issues of possible back and forth domestic violence. And after 2015, he was only given a cost of living increase, and it was put in his public file. You need to clean up your personal life. So that was said to Zach Smith, being like, dude, there's some messy stuff, and this is basically a red flag in here. There are rumors about you, and if you don't clean it up, you're gonna lose your job.
And you know what? And furthermore to that, this other stuff with him ordering the sex toys and all these things and taking the pictures, why should that matter? Yeah, does it make him a weirdo? Yes. But why should that matter in the investigation of whether Urban Meyer should be fired or not? I didn't understand that.
I think it's to pollute his character more and to say, Urban Meyer, you have a bigger question as to why he was still on staff. And the ultimate thing is, in what people have argued, did he know? You know, I mean, the guy was having an affair with somebody inside the office. And I think probably what's maybe most damaging, she was reassigned. Now, it was a consensual relationship. The person he's having an affair with worked in the football office. She was reassigned to a different department, which that could be even more damning than even the domestic abuse allegations if it turns out that there was nothing there.
So maybe you can't fire a guy, in my opinion. And look, I'm no lover of Urban Meyer or Ohio State. We all know this.
Right.
But what's fair is fair, in my opinion. And in my opinion, you can't fire a guy because he just has different morals than you. I mean, if he was covering something up, actual crimes and domestic abuse, then yes, fire him. If he didn't go according to the guidelines of his employers, then yes, fire him, because then he's breaking rules.
Right.
But if he did what he was supposed to do, but he's just keeping a guy on that was a known jerk, then, I mean, it is what it is.
That's going to be hard to fire him, because if he didn't violate the morality clause in his contract, you owe him $38 million.
Just saying.
Yeah. So what did he know? When did he know it? What did he do? Hopefully Ohio State gives us answers. And they should. From a PR standpoint, they need to answer the questions behind whatever decision they do. And I'm telling you, for both sides. Because inside of Columbus, if he's fired without a good explanation, they're going to burn the town down.
Right.
And if they reinstate him without much explanation, the rest of the nation is going to complain 100 times more about Ohio State.
I have a feeling they're really not going to be able to win on this one unless they suspend him for the 2 games against Oregon State and Rutgers, and then everybody's happy.
Urban has already apparently said he's not going to take a suspension because he didn't do anything wrong. So he's like, pay me out $30 million and I'll walk. And the university probably can't afford to do that.
It's going to be very interesting.
They just need to explain well what they did.
Yeah.
And have good answers and be able to justify it.
You're right. If they can explain it away,
yeah,
then they'll be all right.
And hopefully sooner rather than later we get this whole thing answered.
We'll see.
And stop bothering me in the toilet.
Clay Travis.
Yes. Check out the show on YouTube. You can go to the KVJ Show. We are right there. You can also follow us on Twitter and download the podcast. Listen to it, too. It's Kevin's Other Show.
You listened to him on the KVJ Show for years. Every time he tried to talk sports, he'd get shut down. After years of begging, we finally gave in. Brought to you by Wellington Anti-Aging. Low T? Go to WellingtonAntiAging.com. And by Bremen Motor Cars in West Palm Beach, a world-class experience. Shop BremenPorsche.com now. It's Kevin's Other Show on 640 The Hurricane.